Hello everyone, it's Myung-Huljan. Today I am going to read S6, 6013, Return to Ithaca, Chapter 5. Odysseus stood and faced the crowd. "Where should I begin?" he said. "I have such a long, sad tale to tell. First, I will tell you my name. I'm Odysseus. My home is Ithaca, a bright and beautiful island. The island is low and the water around it can often be rough, but there is no sight more beautiful than one's own home. I haven't seen my island, my family for 20 years, not since I sailed away to fight the Trojan War." Odysseus went on to tell how the Greeks had fought for 10 years in faraway Troy, and how their mighty fleet had set sail for home after winning the war. He told how a terrible storm had driven his 12 ships off course and sent them to the land of the lotus eaters, and then to the cave of the hideous Cyclops monster. Odysseus told about the horror of seeing the giant one-eyed monster eat his warriors alive, and how he had led his men in a daring escape by hiding in the fleece of the monster's rams. Odysseus told how the wind god had given him a bag of winds to help speed his ships home, and how, when they were within sight of Ithaca, his men had disobeyed his orders and opened the bag while he was sleeping, releasing a terrible gale that swept the ships back across the sea, far away from home. Odysseus told how cannibal giants had murdered most of his men and sunk 11 of his 12 ships. He told how he and his crew had then sailed to the island of Search, the enchantress, and how the beautiful witch had turned his men into pigs. He told about his journey to the mist-filled land of the dead, where he saw the ghosts of friends who had died, and the saddest sight of all, the ghost of his own mother. Odysseus told how his ship sailed past the sirens, strange bird women who lured the sailors to watery death with their beautiful singing. He told how his ship was forced to pass between two deadly creatures, the hideous six-headed monster, Scylla, and the whirlpool monster, Charybdis. Odysseus told how his men had disobeyed the gods and slain the cattle of the sun god, and how, for this offense, the gods had drowned the last of his men in a horrible storm at sea. Odysseus told how he had then sailed alone to the island of Calypso, and how the goddess had kept him prisoner for 7 long years. He told about leaving her island and clinging to a raft for 20 days and nights at sea, until he had finally crawled upon the very shores where Princess Nashka and her handmaidens had found him. At the end of his astonishing tale, Odysseus sighed with sorrow. "I want now only to return to my family," he said. "I want to go home." All who had listened to Odysseus' story were silent with awe. At long last, the king spoke. "For many years, this man has been far from his native island. Now he asks only that we help him return to his family. Tomorrow, 52 of our finest sailors will prepare a ship, and at sunset, we will send him on his way home." The next day, King Alcinous's servants packed the great ship with fine clothes and gifts of gold. As the sun sank low in the sky, the king's men sacrificed an ox to Zeus, almighty ruler on Mount Olympus. "May the gods always bless your family for your great kindness and generosity," Odysseus said to the king. The ship's sailors then laid a blanket on the deck for Odysseus. They urged him to lie on the blanket and take his rest. As they set sail in silence, Odysseus lay down on the blanket and closed his eyes. The crew took their places. They raised the anchor and began to row. As the ship moved through the twilight, Odysseus fell asleep. After years of struggling against the ills of war, against storms and hideous monsters, he struggled no more. The king's ship sped like a team of galloping stallions over the sea. Even falcons could not keep up with her as she moved across the purple waves. An hour before dawn, the ship drew close to an island harbor. Bordered by a steep slope, the harbor was free of wild winds. Its waters were calm. The crew dropped anchor and leaped ashore. Odysseus did not stir from his slumber. The sailors wrapped the sleeping warrior in his blanket and gently carried him onto the sand. Then they left him, sleeping peacefully in the shade of an olive tree. They placed his gift near him on the sand: bronze, cauldrons, golden plates, and richly woven garments. Then they returned to their ship and set sail. After 20 long years, Odysseus of Ithaca was finally home. Chapter 6: The Mysterious Shepherd. When Odysseus awoke, he found himself surrounded by a mist. Through the haze, he saw strange winding paths and ghostly high cliffs. Nothing looked familiar. When he saw the gift from the king piled near him, he fell into despair. Why did King Odysseus order his men to sail to this place, he wondered. Why have they abandoned me here? Odysseus paced up and down the beach, angry at the king for sending him to an unknown shore. When he saw a young shepherd coming toward him, he rushed to meet him. Greeting, friend, Odysseus shouted through the mist. I beg you not to fear me, but to tell me the truth. Where am I? What country is this? Sir, you must be a stranger to this region if you do not know this island, said the shepherd. It is known far and wide, from the glow of dawn to the gloom of twilight. It's a rugged place, not good for horses, but it grows grain and grapes. It receives plenty of rain, so it has good water and good grass for goats and cattle. Even those who have trouble from as far away as Troy know the island's name. It's Ithaca. Odysseus could not believe his ears. Surely I do recognize my own country, he thought. He feared the shepherd might be trying to trick him, so he quickly invented a story. Ah, yes, I thought so. I myself came here to Ithaca to escape punishment for killing a thief who tried to steal my treasure from the Trojan War. He pointed the gleaming gift on the sand. The shepherd smiled. Then, in the wink of an eye, the young man was transformed into a tall, striking woman with the gray, glinting eyes. Athena, the breathed Odysseus. Odysseus, you're the world's most cunning storyteller, she said, but still you did not know me, your guardian and protector. I have come here to help you again. I did not want others to see you, so I again shrouded you in a mist. It made your surroundings look unfamiliar to you. But never fear, this is indeed your homeland. Goddess, how do I know you are telling me the truth? Said Odysseus. How can I know that I have really come home? Athena waved the wand. Look about you now, Odysseus, and you will see the olive trees with the long leaves. You will see the dusky cave when nymphs weave the sea-purple webs. You will see the springs that never run dry. Behold, Ithaca. As she said these words, the goddess dispersed the mist that surrounded them. In the bright, clear air, Odysseus saw all the things that the goddess had described. Joyfully, he fell to his knees and kissed the ground. Come, said Athena, let us hide these treasures in the cave of the nymphs. Then we will make a plan. Together, Odysseus and Athena stowed the gold and bronze and woven clothes in the cave. Then Athena rolled a stone over the cave's entrance. When the stone was in place and the treasures were safe, Athena and Odysseus sat on the ground beneath an olive tree. There, Athena told him all about the suitors who had invaded his home. For several years, Penelope fought off the evil man. Finally, she promised to choose one to marry, but she never intended to do so. One of her maids reported her deceit, and the suitors raged against her. Now time is running out. She mourns for you, but does not give up hope. Odysseus fought to contain his anger against those who had tormented his faithful wife. He quietly asked the goddess to help him. Tell me what to do. Give me courage. With your help, I can fight 300 men. You will fight them, said Athena, but now you must tell no one who you are. Suffer all you hear and see in silence until you can take your revenge. But might not some of my countrymen recognize me? Said Odysseus. I will see to it that they do not, said Athena. I will disguise you as an old man. I will take the hair from your head and wrinkle your flesh and dim your eyes. I will give you rags to wear, like those worn by a wretched beggar. With these words, Athena raised a hand and passed it over to Odysseus. She shriveled the smooth skin that covered his body. She took the hair from his head and the light from his eyes. She draped a ragged cloak about his shoulders and gave him a walking stick and tattered bag. Be on your way now, the goddess said. Go to the hut of your swineherd. He's a good and honest man. Stay with him while I go to Telemachus. I'll bring him home from the sea, where he seeks some sign that you're still alive. Oh goddess, why did you let my son drift in despair, searching for me? Why did you not tell him the truth? Do not fear. I was with him for much of his journey, and even though evildoer plot to murder him, I promise you they will soon die instead. Chapter 7. The Swineherd. Odysseus leaned on his walking stick and trod slowly over the stony path that led away from the sea. He hobbled through the woods and over the hills to his estate. Finally, Odysseus came upon the swineherd who had long tended his hundreds of hogs. The old man sat in front of a crude stone shelter near the swine pens. He was making a pair of leather sandals. Near him lay 4 savage dogs that guarded the hogs. When the dogs caught sight of Odysseus, they lunged forward, snarling and growling. Odysseus threw down his stick and crouched on the ground. The swineherd rushed forward, shouting and throwing stones at the vicious dogs, driving them away. "You're lucky, old man," the swineherd said to Odysseus. "In another minute, they might have killed you. Stand and come into my hut. I'll give you food and wine. Then you can tell me your story, from where you have come and what sorrows you have known." Keeping the dogs at bay, the swineherd led Odysseus inside his simple hut, made a seat of soft twigs, covered it with shaggy goatskin, and invited Odysseus to sit down. You're kind, sir," said Odysseus. "May mighty Zeus bless you for your hospitality. May he grant your greatest wish." "I have only one wish, that my dear master was still alive," said the swineherd. "Had he lived, he would surely have given me a reward for caring tenderly for his livestock these many years. He might have given me a house, a wife, and a piece of land, but Allah, my good master, has been gone for 20 years. He died far away from home, returning from the war with Troy. Storm spirits destroyed his ships and all his men. And what of his family?" Odysseus asked softly. "Ah, his wife waits for him in vain, while other men try to force her to marry. His mother gave up hope of his return long ago and died of grief. His father wishes to die now also. The old man no longer lives in the palace, but sleeps alone in the vineyards. As for the son of Odysseus, the poor boy wanders the earth looking for his father. It is tragic indeed." The faithful swineherd sighs deeply, then stood up. "Let me feed you now, good sir," he said. The swineherd set about preparing a meal for Odysseus. He served him meat, still hot on the spit and sprinkled with barley meal. He gave him wine in a cup made from ivy wood. As they ate and drank together, the swineherd complained to Odysseus about Penelope's suitors. "They butcher the best hogs of the farm," he said. "They slaughter the cattle, rob the storehouses, and drink my master's wine. Worst of all, they torment my poor mistress night and day, demanding that she forget Odysseus and marry one of them. Allah, she is faithful beyond compare. She weeps for her lost husband and will not give up hope for his return. Do her suitors not heed her wishes? No, nay, these men will not leave her alone. They are cruel and without pity. I hear rumors that they now lie in wait, plotting to murder her son." Odysseus said nothing, but in his mind he coldly brooded upon revenge, and the seeds of the suitors' death was sown. As Odysseus and the swineherd finished their meal, a storm began to blow outside. Wind and rain pelted the roof of the small hut. Swineherd gave Odysseus more wine and asked him to tell about himself. Odysseus lied. He said that he was born in Crete and had wandered many towns until he had come to Ithaca. "But I must tell you this. On my travels, I met a king who told me that Odysseus of Ithaca is still alive. The king said Odysseus will return home on a dark night. When the new moon is hidden, he said he might return openly or he might return in secret." Swineherd shook his head sadly. "Don't try to raise my hopes, my friend. In the past, other wanderers have passed through Ithaca with rumors about Odysseus. Each time they have tormented his poor wife with their falsehoods. Again and again she has imagined that she might soon see her husband. Long ago, I myself believed the man who told me that my master will return in summer or in autumn, but Odysseus has never come back. and never will. I'm certain that the fish have devoured him by now, and his bones lie deep in the sand of some faraway place. As rainy darkness descended upon the stone house, the swineherd made Odysseus a bed of sheepskin, spread a thick cloak over him. Then the faithful servant, who wrapped himself in the hide of a goat, and left the hut. He went out into the dark, windy night, and lay under the shelter of a rock, guarding his master the swine. Chapter 8. Return of the Sun. While Odysseus had been making his way home to Ithaca, his son Telemachus had stayed on as a guest in the palace of the king and queen of Sparta. For many days Telemachus had wondered what to do. One night, as he tossed restlessly in bed, the goddess Athena appeared in his chambers. Before Telemachus could speak, Athena gave him urgent advice. Linger here no longer, Telemachus. Go home at once and protect your house. But beware, your mother's suitors plan to kill you. Right now, they wait to ambush you in the strait between Ithaca and the island of Samos. What should I do? Asked Telemachus. Sail quickly through this passage, hugging neither shore, said Athena. The gods will send the fair wind to speed your ship onto a safe port. When you land, send your crew to town, then go alone to your father's swineherd, the man who tends his flock. Send him to your mother to tell her of your safe return. Before Telemachus could ask more questions, Athena vanished from the room. Telemachus dressed hotly, then ran to King Menelaus' chambers. My lord, I'm sorry to take leave of you so soon, but I must set off for home immediately. King hated to see the son of Odysseus leave Sparta, but he consented and ordered that a chariot be prepared for him. As Telemachus said farewell to King Menelaus and Queen Helen, a strange sight appeared in the sky. An eagle flew overhead. It clutched the great white goose in its talons. Men and women ran across the field. They pointed at the weird sight and cried out in amazement and fear. What omen is this? Someone shouted. What can it mean? Queen Helen calmly answered. The gods have revealed to my heart the meaning of this sign. The eagle stands for Odysseus. The goose stands for his home. After he has traveled far and wide, Odysseus will return home to Ithaca and take his revenge. May the gods make it so, said Telemachus. With that, the son of Odysseus snapped the reins of the horses and began his long journey home. Telemachus' chariot raced across the plains of Sparta, then on to the harbor of Pylos. There Telemachus found his crew and ship waiting for him. He quickly boarded the vessel and ordered his men to raise a sail. Athena sent the fair west wind to start them on their way. On the journey, Telemachus was careful to heed Athena's advice. He ordered his men not to sail close to either shore. When they passed through the strait between Ithaca and the island of Samos, as the black ship sped safely toward his home, Telemachus remembered more words from the goddess. When you land in Ithaca, send your crew to town. Then go alone to your father, the swineherd, the man who tends his hogs. Just before they reached the port of Ithaca, Telemachus ordered his crew to strike their sail and row to land. When the ship was anchored, the crew went ashore and made a fire to cook their meal. After all his men had eaten their fill, Telemachus spoke to them. Now row on to the city's port without me. I must travel alone and seek out my father's swineherd. Once the men had cast off and the ship was on its way, Telemachus laced his fine leather sandals and picked up his mighty bronze spear. With rapid step, he headed for the farmstead where the swineherd kept watch over the hogs. Chapter 9. Reunion. Morning was breaking over the swineherd's hut. Swineherd had built a fire and was preparing breakfast for himself and Odysseus. As he poured their wine, dogs began yelping outside. The dogs sound happy. They don't snarl. They don't snarl or growl, Odysseus said to the swineherd. They must be greeting someone they know and trust. Before Odysseus could say more, a young man appeared in the doorway of the hut. Swineherd jumped up, dropping the cups of wine. He ran to the young man and tearfully kissed him. Telemachus, my eyes are sweet light, the old man said. Odysseus gazed upon his son's handsome face. He was unable to move or speak. When he had last seen his beloved boy, Telemachus had been a baby. Now he was a young man with broad shoulders and a proud chest, reddish hair, lively bright eyes. Indeed, he looked very like his father. Telemachus smiled at the swineherd. "You're a welcome sight to my eyes, too," he said. "Tell me first, how is my mother? What has happened to her since I left?" "Word came to her that you were in grave danger," said the swineherd. "She will be overjoyed to hear that you have found your way home alive. Come inside, eat and rest." As Telemachus drew near the hearth, Odysseus rose silently from his seat and offered it to his son. Telemachus shook his head. "Keep your seat, old man. Another will serve me as well." Odysseus nodded and took his place again. His face half hidden by the hood of his cloak, he continued to gaze with wonder upon the young man. The swineherd threw fresh logs on the fire and spread a fleece on the ground for Telemachus. Then he poured meat from the previous night's meal and a basket of bread. He served the honeyed wine in wooden cups. When the three men had finished their meal, Telemachus spoke softly to the swineherd. "Tell me, where does your guest come from? What ship and what crew brought him here?" "He comes from Crete and has traveled over the world. I put him in your hands now. Offer him the hospitality of your father's house." Telemachus shook his head sadly. "How can I take a guest into a house when it is overrun by my mother's suitors? I can only offer him gifts. I will clothe him in a cloak and tunic, and give him fine sandals and a sword, and send him wherever he wants to go. But for now, I will visit with him while you hurry to my mother and tell her of my safe return." Swineherd nodded and stood up. "Speak to her in secret. Let no one else know I'm here." "I understand," said the swineherd. Then he took his leave of Telemachus, Odysseus, and set off for the palace. After the swineherd had left, Odysseus saw a tall, fair woman appear in the doorway of the hut. Telemachus seemed not to take notice of her, but the dogs whimpered and cowered in fears. The woman beckoned to Odysseus. He quietly left the fire and stepped outside. He followed her to a stone wall. Facing the woman in the morning light, Odysseus saw that it was the goddess Athena. "Odysseus, it is time to tell your son the truth. Then the two of you must plan your revenge on the suitors and make your way to town together. I will follow closely behind. I am ready for the fight." Athena touched Odysseus with a wand. Instantly, the ragged garments fell away from his body, and he was clad in a fine tunic and cloak. He was taller and looked much younger. His face was bronzed, his cheeks full. He had dark hair and a dark beard. Athena had restored Odysseus to his strongest, most vital self. Before Odysseus could speak, the goddess vanished in the morning light. Odysseus returned to the hut. When Telemachus saw him, a look of wonder and fear came over his face. He could barely speak. "Stranger, you have changed," he stammered. "You must be a god from Mount Olympus. Spare me harm. Allow me to make a sacrifice to you." Odysseus spoke quietly. "I'm no god, Telemachus. I'm the one you have mourned for, the one for whom you have suffered great pain and injury. I am your father." Tears that Odysseus had long held back now streamed down his face. Telemachus shook his head. No, you can't be my father. You are a demon casting a spell, or you are a god. You're an old man, and now you are young." I'm not an immortal," said Odysseus, "but I've been blessed by a goddess. After 20 years of wandering and torment, Athena has brought me home to Ithaca. She changed me into an old man. Now I'm a young man once more. It is easy for the gods to cast a man down and to raise him up again." Hearing this word, Telemachus began to weep. He grabbed his father and hugged him, and the two sobbed together. Their cries were wild and piercing, like those of eagles whose young have been stolen from them. After 20 long years, father and son were finally reunited. Chapter 10. A Plan for Revenge. Sitting together in the swineherd's hut, Odysseus and Telemachus asked many questions of each other. "What ship brought you here, father? Where is your crew?" It is told how King Odysseus has sent him home with the help of the best sailors in the world. I slept all through the voyage, only to wake and find myself alone on shore, surrounded by gold and bronze treasure. With the help of Athena, I hid everything in the cave of the nymphs. And Athena sent me here to find you. She wishes us now to plot revenge against our enemy. It may be hard for us to fight all of them. We are only two, and they number nearly 122. I believe Athena will help us, said Odysseus. As will her father, Zeus. Do you think we will then be strong enough? With the help of Zeus and Athena, we'll surely defeat our enemy, said Telemachus. Tell me what we must do. Tomorrow at daybreak, you must go home alone. I will disguise myself as a beggar again and travel to the palace. Do not protest if the suitors abuse me when I arrive. Even if they shout names at me or throw things at me, do not speak a word in my favor. When will we fight then? Them. When Athena whispers to me that the time has come, I will nod to you. You must then take all the swords and spears and shields from the hall and hide them in an upstairs room. What will I tell the others when they ask why I'm doing this? Say that you're removing the weapons so they will not be harmed from the smoke of the fire. Leave weapons only for you and me, 2 swords, 2 spears, and 2 leather shields. And remember, my son, tell no one that you have seen me. Not the swineherd, nor any of the servants. Not my old father, not even your mother. As the day wore on, Odysseus and Telemachus made for the plan. Though Odysseus had finally returned to Ithaca, he knew he could still not rest. There was one more great battle to fight, but this one he would fight with his son. The end.